Welcome, everybody. Can you hear me? Thumbs up if you can hear me. Awesome. I think we'll give people just another minute or two and then we'll get started. So if you care, right now we have 74 people in the meeting, which is pretty good. Any guesses on how many we're going to have all up? I know, tough questions. Tough
Yeah,
questions to get started.
this is perfect time for people to call out their team members, It's how many people,
Uh,
Good.
right?
yeah, we made it so that they can't actually do that.
Oh,
Yeah.
But 81, 82, it's climbing.
I always way over guess on these, so I'm
I
gonna
was gonna say 90s, but I think I'm gonna be
we
short.
break 100. We'll call it a win.
I think I'll be short. Oh, I am short.
Mm. Oh, I think we're going to be over 100.
I was trying to be low ball it.
Kind of our personalities. Um, and that's why we work great together. Uh, all right. It's 6:02. I think we should get started. We are recording this meeting, so that if people turn up late, they can always look at the recording to see what happened at the beginning. So I'm going to share my screen with everyone. Hopefully you can see that. Yes? All right, so welcome to the First California State of the State call. I want to thank everyone for giving us some time this evening. And I guess I want to start just by saying I want to apologize. I feel like we did a bit of a bait and switch on all of you because we sent out this information a week or so ago when we knew that we really wanted to have it tonight. And yes, it is a state of the state, but really this is about one thing in particular. And so we'll go to the next slide here. Hopefully you all saw today, California is moving to the district system for 2026. And I would be remiss if we didn't start by saying thank you. Like this has been a decades long adventure for California. It started a long time ago, well before I was here, that's for sure. And none of this would have happened without that early work and the persistence of the community and the graciousness of the community. I feel like we really are standing on the backs of giants here. And so thank you to everyone who's put any effort into this since the beginning of time. I hear it was like maybe 2011 or so. More recently, huge thank you to the California RDs, to the staff at First Headquarters who have, really made this happen. There was a small working group of people from headquarters and volunteers from here in California, and they put in an awful lot of time and effort, and none of this would happen without them. So thank you to all of you. That is the first message that is really, really important for us to get out. We still have an awful lot to figure out. Um, we need all of your help to um, give us input because we announced this pretty early. And we did that sort of on purpose so that we could hopefully get a lot more input from the community before this actually happens in a year and a half or a little bit over a year. A year and a half. Well, I'm optimistic, a little bit over a year. But we also know that we need more volunteers and we need to get some other things figured out. And the best way to do that is to get the community involved early. So the announcement came out today, but we don't have all the answers. We're still learning about districts as we go, and we really are counting on everyone in this community to step up, help us learn. We'll learn together. And really, we want your input. We want your questions. So we're real excited that we're able to make this announcement today. Um, One of the things that you should know is that there are two models in FIRST right now, right? There's the district model and the regional model. And there seems to be a desire at some point to maybe condense those in the future years. And this is a great first step, a great pilot to make that happen. So again, we're really grateful to headquarters for letting us do this. If you have questions, the Q&A is enabled. You should be able to ask your questions. We might put them off until the end, especially if the question is something that we're going to cover in the presentation. But please don't hesitate to ask questions because that's why we're here. So having said all of that, let's get rolling.
All right, so touched a little bit on the why, but from our perspective, we've heard from the community over many years, maybe a decade, as Luann shared, that there seems to be some disparity between teams who participate in districts and those who participate in regionals. So the idea behind districts really is we're driving to get more plays for you all, our teams, and ultimately it's either less cost per play or you get 2 plays per your same cost. So ultimately getting more additional plays without additional cost. And then also, as we grow our districts, we're looking at adding more and smaller events. So the hope is that you have local events that are close. Ideally, you could drive to, but if not, if at least or at a minimum, hopefully be able to, have one local and one you may have to travel to. The other benefit of having district model is there are district championships, and this is sort of a mid-tier advancement. So there'll be a lot more teams we're going to see in a little bit that are able to advance to a championship event for the state, and then some will then advance to the world championship from there. So mid-tier advancement is a great opportunity to take it to the next level for more teams in the state, and then ultimately building a stronger local community, first community really working together to support this and collaborate and work together to make this happen.
So I'm going to discuss how will it work with teams. At first, I want to thank Colin Fultz and Lori Burkhamer for being on tonight from the East Coast, from headquarters, because it's 9 o'clock back there. So wave to everybody. Thank you for being here. So it will look and feel like a traditional district, but we are, as has been said previously, tweaking it to try to go eventually to a fuller district type model for across the board. 2 district events for the initial registration cost, like David said. Teams can play anywhere in California, but you're going to see that we're going to divide at a point for NorCal and SoCal, but a California team can play anywhere within California. There will be 2 district champions, one in Northern California, one in Southern California. However, even though you can play anywhere within the state of California, your district championship will be based where your team is located based on the map that you're going to see in a few slides. And if Luann wants to jump in with anything I forgot, you're welcome to.
You're doing great.
So, of course, we had to split up the state into Northern and Southern California, but there's no, that isn't a real thing. So what we had to do is figure out, based on the teams that we have, where would be the best dividing line. So as you can tell from this map, we will have the Northern and Southern. Each of those areas will have 8 district qualifying events in 2026. So there will be a total of 16 qualifying events that your teams will be able to choose from, 8 in the North, 8 in the South. And then based on where you are in California, you will have either a Northern California District Championship or a Southern California District Championship. And the border for that is the northern border of San Luis Obispo, Kern, and San Bernardino counties. And that evenly divided up the teams.
Luann, just wanted to pause here for 1 second. I'm curious. I'm hearing that maybe folks on the call can't access the Q&A. Is that true? Yes, I see heads up and thumbs up.
Okay, so can you access the chat?
No.
Okay, well, keep your questions till the end, and then we will unmute people and let you ask your questions. Oh, wait, Heather Abrams could just do it.
Oh, Lon, we have a bunch of questions coming into the Q&A chat now.
Okay, great. Don't worry, if we have the teams set up a little bit incorrectly, we are happy to answer some questions at the end, okay? So don't worry, you'll get all your questions answered.
Awesome.
Okay, we wanted to go over who could play where, because we're going to be operating just like every other district, but it is a little bit confusing for some of people who maybe aren't quite as familiar with the district system. And so This chart sort of shows where teams can play. So if you're a California team in 2026, you can play at any California district event. You can play at any other district event, but you won't get points and there has to be space in those events. So that means if you want to go and play an event in Mar or in Michigan and there's space that will allow you to, that's allowed, but you don't get points for that. Um, Also, if you want to go and play at a regional, you can do that. But again, it's only if space allows, and you don't get any points for that as well. If you're a non-California district team, basically what I said about the California district teams is the same, except it also applies for California districts because that would be you wouldn't be in your home district. Regional teams. So this is regional teams, whether it's domestic teams or international teams. For now, at least in 2026, they're not going to be allowed to play at regional events. There's going to be a task force over the summer that's going to look at potentially how that could happen in 2027. This was something that we really wanted to have happen. We love our international teams. We love our out-of-state teams coming to play here, but it just wasn't possible for the 2026 season. So as much as we hate it, they're not going to be able to play here, just like they can't play in any other district. Regional teams can go and play in any regional that they want to. None of that is changing.
Sorry. Was looking at questions. So for California, we like to be innovative and creative out here. And so sometimes we do things a little bit different. And this would be an example of that. So in every other district that is currently in place, there is a local nonprofit that assumes financial responsibility for that whole district. That means everything that putting on events, transporting fields, everything to make that possible. Additionally, any employees are hired by that nonprofit. And that was somewhat of a daunting task for us. And so we presented this idea of basically we are staying on the books of FIRST. So FIRST is still continue to be the financial or fiscal agent for FIRST Robotics competition in California. We as the regional directors are still employees of FIRST. All the revenue that we bring in from sponsorship and other things go to FIRST, so that FIRST can pay all of our expenses. FIRST provides the fields and the trucks to transport those fields around. They continue to provide our event planners, show-ready events. And so really on the back end, everything looks much more like a regional model or the model that we are currently in. But from a team's perspective, it looks like a traditional district competition structure.
Okay, now I'm going to attempt to do the advancement because it takes me a while to learn all this too. So if you get confused, it's okay. Just write down your questions. In the district championship, the top 60 teams from NorCal and the top 60 teams from SoCal will advance to the assigned district championship. The points for all California, so it's going to go on a point system. So you're earning points for your district championship, regardless of where you play. If I'm correct, if I'm incorrect, anybody jump in and say she doesn't know what she's talking about. So your points will count towards your district championship. And the top 60 teams, like it says, will go to from SoCal will advance from NorCal, top 60 from NorCal and top 60 teams from SoCal will advance to the district championships, one in Northern California, one in Southern California. Again, I want to make this very clear. If you choose to compete in Southern California and you're in Northern California or vice versa, you earn your points wherever in California that you compete. Now, we're going to have a lot of questions about that, so I'm not going to go any further to confuse anything. As far as first championship, ranking points from both district championships will be combined into one California list. The top about 45-ish teams will advance to Houston, and it's based on points. One California list for both championships will be compiled, and the point system will determine who advances to the first championships.
So I know a lot of you are worried about how the awards is going to work. Um, and at this point, we are still working through that. But at this point, for the Impact Award, we'll have one per district qualifying event, and then they will qualify to play at the district champs. And then at the district champs, there will probably be two per district champ that qualify to play at first champs. So it will be a little different, but they will still be advancing in the same way.
Right. And I'm going to talk about EI and Rookie All-Star, but all of the numbers that are in these award slides are not definitive. So that's why it says probably, right? So while this says probably one, it means that we'll get at least one, right? But the actual number of awards at each district championship won't be decided until probably next year sometime. But we wanted to give you a feel for sort of the range of awards that we're going to be giving out at all of our events, because some of them are significantly different than under the regional model. So don't get too hung up on the actual numbers that are here, but just think about them sort of as a magnitude of scale number. And hopefully that will help. So engineering and rookie all-star. This is a little bit different. So there will be one at each district qualifying event. And if you win that, then you're going to be able to compete for that award at your respective district championship. But that doesn't mean you're going to be able to play with your robot at that district championship. Your robot, you would still have to qualify via the district point system to be able to play with the robot. So we might have teams who are competing just for EI or just for Rookie All-Star district championships without playing the robot game, which is really different than regionals. I don't think that's going to happen all that often, but it is a possibility. Okay. And then at the district championships, we'll probably get one of each of these to qualify to go on and play at the first championship. But when you get there, you will be playing with your robot. So you will be competing just like you would at like every other team at championship, which is a little bit odd, but that's the way it works in the district system.
Up next is Dean's List. Again, this is a shift. Each team will be able to nominate two Dean's List from their team, similar or exactly the same way that they are now in the regional system. So Dean's List semifinalist award, probably two at each district event qualify for each event. So there'll be two from each district event that will qualify to move on to the district championship. And then from the district championship, we're probably looking at four per each district championship that will then move on to the first championship in Houston to compete for the Dean's List Award.
Okay, Woody Flowers Finalist Award. This is probably one of the biggest changes. You'll probably have 1 to 2 mentors at each district championship that will win. We will not have at the qualifying events. There will not be a winner at each qualifying event. You will be submitting your award nomination at the district championships, and 1 to 2 from each district championship, Northern or Southern California, will then move on to get the award and move on to Houston.
So now what's next? We will be hosting multiple Ask Me Anything sessions in the next few weeks. We know that you have a lot of questions, and you probably at this point also don't know what questions you have. I understand that. I feel the same way. So as time goes on, we will be hosting these sessions. And then we're also planning on hosting informational sessions at all of the California regionals this year. They'll be hosted by the regional directors, and it'll be a way for teams and those in the community to ask ask us questions, and we can kind of work things through like that.
And of course, you can always reach out to your regional directors to ask questions at any point in time. So we wanted to talk through a couple of the concerns that we have at the moment. And this list is not exhaustive, but it's the things that we feel like we really want to start talking with the community about. The first one, the most pressing one, is volunteers. We really need more volunteers for our events this year in order to be able to train people up, to be able to have a successful district in 2026. We are very short at some of these events. We've been asking, we've been trying to get more people, but we really need you to step up to do this. We're going to be adding effectively 5 more events because it'll be 3 more district events, 1 in the north and 2 in the south, and then 2 district championships. That's a big, big step up for California, and we need more volunteers of every variety. So please, I can't say this strongly enough. We need you to step up to make this happen. We've told headquarters that we know the community is going to come through, and we believe in the community. We believe in all of you. So this is our ask. We need you to step up and volunteer this year. And there's a link there that you can go and click. If you have questions, reach out to any of us. Reach out to your first senior mentors. Reach out to the volunteer coordinators. Let us know, and we will get you hooked up and connected in for this year.
And
The next,
I will say, if you're sorry, Luann,
yep.
if you lead coach mentor, you have team responsibilities at competitions, great. Maybe look at another competition to volunteer at, or if nothing else, like tap into your networks, like tap into the folks within your community and help us find volunteers. So the more folks we have out there pitching this, the better off we are. So multiple ways to approach this.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Absolutely
Yep.
correct. The next thing we need is we're going to need some help finding some new venues. Most district events are held in high schools, and we've been headed that way for the last couple of years, but we still need some more venues. So if you think you are at a high school or you know of a high school or another venue that could work, please let us know as soon as possible. We are actively starting to look for this next year because we know we've got to add a bunch of places and change a few places as well. And then the final thing is we're going to have to increase our funding. We are adding 5 events, and that's going to cost money. So if you have some idea of anyone who you think might be willing to sponsor First California, please, please, please let us know. We're not asking you to do the fundraising for us. What we're asking is for you to use your networks, and we're happy to go and actually develop the relationships and do the asking for the funding. But we really need more sponsors in California. So our plea is if you know of anybody, please, please, please let us know. Um, and that was sort of the end of what we had. I don't know if Colin or Lori, if you have anything you want to add before we open it up for questions.
And you don't have to either.
Yeah, I just thought
yeah,
we
option,
did.
yeah.
Did we mention, Luann, that these events would be shorter than our regular regionals?
No, that's a great point, Velma. You want to talk through that?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so all of these events are basically the 2.5 day long events. So it might be a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It might be a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or it could be a Friday. Anyway, 3 days, 2.5 days. Very similar to what we're piloting in San Francisco this year. So on day 1, you effectively will go in, you'll set up, and then in that evening, teams will load in. Robot inspection will start immediately. There might be some practice matches that night. Day 2, we start off doing a little bit of time for practice matches, finishing up robot inspection. It looks like the opening ceremony starts 10 o'clock-ish in the morning, and then we start qualification matches. The days are a little bit longer because we're gonna play longer each day because we have fewer days. And then the last day, day 3, looks more like a traditional regional in that you're going to play some qualifying matches, go into alliance selection, and then to the playoffs. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen because all it says is Q&A.
Louis, I was gonna just maybe a really high level of districts, and some of you like we've been in the weeds with districts now for some time, and some of you may be like, I don't know what districts means. We don't have them here. So just want to kind of high level districts, same registration fee. You get 2 plays for that registration fee. You play at 2 events. You get points based off of how well you qualify, what awards you win, how far you make it in the elimination round, and you get points. So points very similar to what the regional system is using this year. And so ultimately, everybody gets ranked after those 2 events in the state. Southern California events will be teams will be ranked in one list, Northern California in the other list. The top 60 will advance to each of their respective district championships, and then from there the points all of the teams in California get put together into one list, and then the top 45-ish. Actually, I think it's less than that because some of those are pre-qualified awards like Impact. Because 45 is a total number, Luann, correct me if I'm wrong, that will approximately they'll be going to champs from California, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and just in comparison, the last couple of years we've sent about 60 teams on from California, so it is a few fewer, but we have a lot more teams that'll qualify for the district championships. So it's a trade-off.
Mhm.
But if they use the same formulas that they did this year, it would be about 45 teams from California. Um,
Yeah, and Luann, I can share. I think one of the things that we hear from folks, teams that are in that model, is that they feel that the mid-tier advancement and the district advancement is a more fair and equitable advancement throughout the season, that it kind of takes your whole season performance into account, and that it gives a lot of teams this opportunity to define success as advancing to the district championship, which is much more kind of in their control, as opposed to kind of rolling the dice with the limited slots available from the regionals. And so I do think folks see that as a benefit, even though there would be in the end fewer teams. um, I'm also happy to, I guess, take a first pass at answering some of the questions. While you all were focused on presenting, I was kind of reading through the Q&A, and so if that's helpful, I can try to answer some of those live, or if you prefer typing answers in, I think whatever works for you.
I would love to have you answer some questions live.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And so I guess before I start, hi, everybody. Colin Foltz, Program Director for First Robotics Competition. Also joined by two members of the FRC staff, Lori Burkhammer and Fiona Hanlon. Lori is our kind of one of the many hats that she wears is district liaison, so works with all the existing districts on, helping make sure their events are successful each season. And then Fiona, it really focuses on team experience. And so she has been, one of the driving factors between a lot of the changes that have come over the last couple of years, double elimination tournament, the regional advancement pool, the things going on with alliance selection, like a lot of that stuff. She's driving a lot of those. And they were part of the group working on this. So do want to recognize them being on as well. Okay, so the first question was from Lonnie. Good question. Doesn't adding the state championship actually raise the cost? So instead of it being, you register for one event at $6,000, for your initial registration fee, which includes the one event, and then you advance to the first championship, which is $5,750. So now you've got the initial $6,000 registration fee and a $4,000 district championship registration fee, which is what it is this year, TBD for next year, but that number hasn't changed in a while. And so, yes, if you look at it from that lens, it is, more expensive. I think as we were going through this, one of the things that stood out to us about California is the significant number of teams from California that are already playing at two events. So last year it was about 25% of teams in California only played one event. And so for 75% of teams, you're playing two or three or more events. And so for those teams, it is starting to, you're decreasing the total amount that you're spending on registration fees. And then again, with more local events, the events are shorter. Hopefully you're spending less on travel as well, which is one of the things that we see in our yearly surveys each year, is that the biggest line item on a lot of teams' budget is actually travel expenses. And so the goal with the district model anywhere is to really bring that down, for teams, and offer that, that local play opportunity. And so if you're going to two events, and now it's $6,000, $3,000 for your second event, and then the championship versus, you get those two plays for your initial $6,000 registration fee. So you're saving there. If you were already doing three events, before that was costing you $12,000 in registration fees. Now you're only paying, $10,000 for three events if you do your two district qualifiers and advance to the district championship. And so that's where you start to see that savings, which again, especially for a region like California, where so many teams are playing multiple events already, it really has that initial impact on the teams. So I'll keep scrolling through. So just curious, Heather asks, just curious, why would a non-California team choose to compete in a California district event if they can't get the points? I think a couple of reasons. The first, honestly, is practice. A lot of teams like to go to those events kind of knowing that they don't impact their advancement through the season, to go and get some practice time with their robot. Maybe, in the middle of their 2 district qualifier events, or there are a lot of teams that will try to go to a different district event before they start their district qualifier events to get some play time, before they get on the field at their events that are going to count for points. And so that's, I think, one of the big reasons. But then also, there are still teams in the district model, like teams in the regional model, that like to travel, and that see that as kind of a core part of the program experience that they can deliver to their students. And so they take advantage of that to either go to a regional, even knowing that they can't advance from that event, or to travel, and play inter-district. So, go and a team from Michigan come and play in Indiana, something like that. And I also don't want to oversell how many teams this is. I think this year it's maybe a dozen of all of the district teams total are going to play at a regional, and about the same number are playing inter-district. So it's one of those, it's an option, but it's not a huge number, that it's not like all of a sudden there's going to be, half of the California events are going to be P&W teams or something like that. It will still primarily be mostly California teams. And so somebody asks, in 2026, California teams can play in regionals, but not advance from the regional, correct? Even if they are the winning alliance captain. And then somebody else asked, what about, can they advance based on cultural awards? And the answer to both of those is no. So there is no advancement for teams that are in district areas to championship from a regional. So if you go, you can still win the event, you get the banner, you get the trophy, you bring that home. But that slot that for the regional would go to a different team. And then the teams from districts that go to regional events are actually not eligible for those automatic qualifier awards, because we want those to go to teams that can then advance to the championship. So eligible for all of the other awards, you could win the creativity award, team spirit awards like that. The teams from districts that go to regionals do compete for and win those awards all the time. And so that's absolutely something that you can do as well. So those options are there, but just none of the advancement associated, and then same with the cultural awards. There was a question about why it was more challenging for California to be its own nonprofit as compared to other districts. So I'll share just from the kind of the first perspective. I mean, next year California is going to come in and be the second largest district in terms of number of teams by far. Right. When Michigan, in 2009, when Michigan moved from regionals to districts, they had about 130 teams. Next year, we're thinking California will be north of 300, right? Which is, it's more than Texas, it's more than New England, it's more than, kind of all of these others. And so just the sheer number of teams kind of making this move all at once, would have made that transition tough, and getting tougher every year, right? Because the program is growing in the state thanks to the hard work of you all growing and sustaining the program. And then in addition, right, if you read the thread over the last couple of weeks, which was hilarious to read, about, here's why all the reasons why California will never be a district, right? It's a big district in terms of number of teams, and it's also a huge geography, and it's a ton of events. And so just kind of all of those things combining into, all those things combined really were some of the barriers that existed. And so that's why it took this creative solution that Dave described to really help kind of bring this along. And like we said in the blog post, this is how we're starting this process in California. It may not be forever. And eventually, if we move to a situation where First California is its own separate operating entity, then that's totally fine if that's where we end up. We're not saying that we're definitely doing that or that we definitely aren't. The question was, how can we make this happen for 2026? And this was the answer that got us there. Question maybe for the California folks. Will both Northern California and Southern California district championships be played at the same time and date? Oh, and it's like maybe.
Yeah, so I'll take that one. I think that's the goal. But we are still working on venues. We're still working on a lot of things having to do with those district championships. So stay tuned would be the answer for that one.
Great. There was a question from Heather about kind of, the quirk of the advancement that you could advance to the district championship to compete for engineering inspiration as an award, but not with your robot, and asking for, some more detail there. And so Fiona linked to a page on the FIRST website that gives a little bit more detail on, exactly how that advancement can work. And I'll say, like, that's not just a hypothetical. That has happened at district championships in the past, where teams that are there competing, for the awards without their robots do win the awards and do advance on. The judges kind of know we're evaluating the team based on the award criteria and not based on whether or not their robot is here competing at the event. So it is something that happens. All right, we are now. So there was the link in the slides, which I think that the form link was also in the blog post that went out today. If you want to sign up, you're interested in volunteering, so please, on behalf of Jared, who's on the call, I will ask folks, please sign up to help volunteer. Make the volunteer coordinators' lives easier by being flooded with volunteers. Question on, are district championships also a shorter format? Great question. So it actually depends on the district. At some of the smaller districts, so like I live in Indiana, so I'll reference Indiana. The Indiana District Championship is a shorter event because it's also smaller. I think this year it's like 36 teams. And so they still use that shorter, 2.5 day. The larger district championships like California's, which, 60 teams, those are a full 3.5 day schedule, just like the current regional events are. But the actual agenda is a little bit different. So instead of having that full practice day, since everybody there has already played at least 2 events, actually start playing qualification matches on that first day with the goal of getting every team at the event 12 matches. And so the overall time that you're there is a little bit different, but again, because everybody has played multiple times, take advantage of that, still have a little bit of practice time, but get into qualification matches earlier. So another question maybe for the California group, in which week will district championships occur? 5, 6, or 7?
Stay tuned. As we said at the beginning of this, we still have a lot of questions that we need to answer. And we are counting on people giving us input and asking these sorts of questions, but we don't have an answer for that one yet.
Great. And then there's a question on kind of how this impacts teams in the Central Valley. So, the regional directors, that may be something that you all want to address at the events, right, when you have an opportunity to speak to teams and about the impacts there. So appreciate that. There's a question about, how are events determined? Is the registration process similar? So again, Fiona, thank you for putting the link in there. I'll say, the one thing to make sure folks are aware of is for the first 2 rounds of event preferencing for teams in the district model. So this would be true for California next year. Only California teams can sign up for, can enter the lottery for those events. So you're no longer having to roll the lottery dice with teams from across the world trying to come in and play in California. The goal here is that we're really doing everything that we can to guarantee 2 in-state plays for every team. And so that's kind of one of the big differences in the registration system. The way that you go in and register will be the exact same. The time frame is the exact same. But that's kind of one of the benefits for you all is kind of dedicated early access to register for those events. And then the events don't open for inter-district play until later. And again, that's at the discretion of the regional directors in the state. And they can know, like, oh, we've got this team that's a little late signing up, so we want to make sure we're holding a slot for them. It gives them some more control and some more discretion over how those event slots are assigned and offered out. And so then Ruth asks, why are Woody Flowers Finalist Award winners fewer in the district model, going from roughly 12 this year? It would be 13 regional events in California, down to 4 in 2012. And that's just the way that the kind of Woody Flowers Award is set up. So it's not a one-to-one, kind of transition there. It's most of the regionals only, or sorry, excuse me, most of the districts only award one Woody Flowers Finalist Award at their district championship, regardless of how many regionals there were before they moved into that model. At some of the larger district championships, there are 2 or 3 Woody Flowers Finalists Awards. But that's just kind of the way that award is distributed amongst the qualifying events.
Yeah, and I wanted to add on to that is just remember that all the numbers that we showed in this are just approximate numbers. It very well may be that we have 2 Woody Flowers, not 4 next year. So just keep that in mind. Colin, there's another question. Do you want to take it?
Is First Impact Award the same as Engineering Inspiration for district championships with no robot? And so, no, I think I'll look to Lori and Fiona to double check me as I as I answer this live. If my memory is serving me correctly, no, the answer is no. If you advance to the district championship by winning the First Impact Award at a district qualifier event, your team is qualified to participate at that event with your robot as well. And I see Lori nodding her head. So that's the difference between those qualifying awards. Impact Award takes, award and robot. Engineering Inspiration is just the award, unless the robot also qualifies, via the points model.
Yeah, and if I may jump in on that one for First Impact Award, it's a guaranteed slot at the district championship. So as soon as you win the First Impact Award, you're guaranteed, and you can start the registration process for that district championship.
Great point. Thank you.
Thank you,
Awesome.
Fiona. I didn't see you on there. I would have introduced you, Fiona Hanlon from headquarters as well.
No worries. I was hiding amongst all the other faces.
I think you were.
I have to say that was partially why I didn't introduce Lori or Colin, is they were not on my screen. And so my apologies for that as well, because we're really grateful that you're here
Sure.
and helping to answer questions. We know that this is a big change. We know that we threw a lot of information at you today, that headquarters threw a lot of information about districts. And it's going to take some time for people to sort of absorb it and really think about it and come up with more questions. So I just want to thank all of you for being here tonight.
It looks like we might have missed a couple questions. I was what is expected team count at each of the district qualifying events? So we're looking at the 36 to 40 team range for those. Have venues for district championships for 26 been secured? No. We are in the process of looking at those. With 8 events per district, is the anticipation 2 events per weekend for 4 weeks and a week off before a week 6 district championship. And I think kind of shared, we're still looking at the schedule and what that looks like. So stay tuned for that.
David, do you want to talk a little bit more about what you're expecting the district championships to look like?
Yeah. So, the idea behind district championships is we want these to be a mid-tier championship experience. So, kind of we're looking to make them maybe a little more exciting, a little more pizzazz than our traditional regional events. Maybe not quite on the scale of the first championship in Houston, but really kind of trying to raise the bar. We're looking at, doing additional things and making those really cool and exciting experience for teams advancing to that.
Okay. Oh, wait, there might be more questions.
Yep, there's a couple of more that have come in.
Yep.
So it looks like maybe Fiona had answered the one about Impact Award. Perfect. So yeah, somebody asked if the Impact Award was the only way to kind of guarantee a slot at the district championship, and the answer there is yes. And again, all the details are in the manual. If that was a section that you just ignored before, you can ignore it for 2025, and then maybe pick it up in May and start familiarizing yourself with the with some of the new advancement pieces. And then a question from Tom asking about championship hotel and if the first championship hotel policy applies to district championships. And the answer is that it does not. And I don't know of any plan to kind of push that out broader than the first championship.
Awesome. If there were no further questions, when you start thinking of more questions, please reach out to us. We are here to help answer them and to, make sure you have all the information that you need. A huge thank you to Colin and Lori and Fiona for being here. We're trying to get you off to bed at a reasonable hour back east. Hopefully we didn't do too badly. There's another question. And someone answered. Excellent. And so I hope this has been an exciting day for everyone. Please keep in touch. We'll be getting information from all of us about Ask Me Anything sessions coming up in the next couple of weeks. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, concerns, or just want to chat, please let your regional director know. So
keep in mind, we're also, as you all are very busy right now, we are as well planning events and getting things ready. So if we don't get back to you right away, we're gathering information. But these Ask Me Anything sessions that Luann talked about coming up are a great way to connect with us and have that one-on-one time and be able to dive into some of those questions.
Colin,
absolutely.
did you have another thought?
Great.
That was a pun, right, David? Dive into it.
Oh yeah. I'm so good I don't even know when I pun.
And then in
awesome.
this case, is it a pun or a punt?
I think we should punt this call off.
Yeah. So thank you all. And have a great night. Hope build season is going well. We'll see you at some regionals. And thank you again for everything. So take care.
Thank you. Have a great night. Take care.
Thank you.
Yep.
Do you want to end this and we'll jump on another call?
I think people are leaving here.
Okay.
Yeah, we only have a few left.
Yeah.
And good job.
We did it.
Yes, we did it. Go us. Look, I think people had great questions. It was really good. I was so glad Colin was there.
Yeah.
I was glad that, and we finished in under an hour. So that makes me pretty happy as well. What did you
Perfect.
guys think? Everybody happy?
Yeah, I think it went
Um,
great.
Yeah.
Definitely more questions than I expected.
I don't think
Like
there
more.
was.
Great. I'm
Yeah.